Rich O'Hara back for a review of a classic Hammer film. This is Captain Clegg, and this was a release from Final Cut Distributors in UK, so it's a Region B locked release. It actually in the US it was released back in the 60s. I saw this at a drive-in back in the 70s as Night Creatures. You could probably pick up a DVD in U.S. on this. This is marketed as a horror movie, and of course, the Night Creatures descriptor when it was marketed in the U.S., it tried to parlay Hammer's reputation as a horror movie producing company, but it's not a horror movie. It's really it's a film based on a book series back in the 1800s called Dr. Sin, and it's about a bootlegger, a smuggler that tries to avoid the Royal Revenue police, if you will, that they're trying to stop any kind of smuggling of mainly alcohol at that time, trying to collect all the revenue and tax people to death. And in this movie, Captain Clegg was bucking the system, trying to avoid the taxing authorities, and he ultimately gets captured and supposedly hung. But turns out that he's not hung. He's actually taken on an alias and hiding in a village as the local squire or priest, if you will. This is one of Peter Cushing, and Peter Cushing plays Captain Clegg, and this is apparently one of his favorite roles because it's a role of it's not really a horror movie. You see these skeletons riding on horseback that are terrorizing the marshes of this village that he's the squire of, and he apparently is kind of overseeing that. But that's really a minor part of the film. It was obviously marketing wise, it was marketed as a horror movie because of the skeletons riding horses, but that's really not what the movie's about. It's really a movie about redemption. Here's the smuggler that he gets a second chance after he's caught. He becomes a priest. All the revenues that he generates, he gives back to the poor people of the village. And in the end, the revenue people catch up with him, and the villagers protect him, even though they find out he's been hiding under an alias. They protect him because he's contributed so much to the village. Great movie, but it's not a horror movie. So if it's a kind of a refreshing departure for Hammer, but if you're expecting a lot of terror and horror typical of Hammer, that's not what this is. It also stars Oliver Reed, and he and a lady named Romaine, who they played in The Curse of the Werewolf, are opposite each other in this film as well. And Oliver Reed does a great job. He had a lot of action scenes that apparently he had during the shooting of the film, he had run his car off the road, broke his shoulder, but he shot these action scenes with a broken shoulder through the whole thing. There's not any internal cover art on this puppy from Final Cut, but it does have a 30-minute documentary about the making of Captain Clegg, and then it's got a look at all the carriages, about a 6-minute look at all the carriages that were built and made for all the different Hammer films, which was fairly interesting. And it's got a still art gallery. I think you can pick this up for about $12 US, but if you're a Hammer completist, I would definitely recommend it, but don't expect it to be your typical Hammer horror movie. The only thing I guess I can tell you is this was released in the 60s as a double bill with Phantom of the Opera, and it did very poorly in the box office. And I think that's why they tried to recast it as a Night Creatures here in the U.S. uh, unsuccessfully apparently. But it's a good film in its own right, so I recommend it. Uh, that of course with any Hammer film, that they with Peter Cushing, I mean you can't really go wrong. So it's still a 7 out of 10. So I appreciate you watching, and I will catch you later. Thanks.